everyone. Dr. Pedram Shojai back with Dr. Sara Gottfried at the Health Bridge. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Pedram. Hello, everyone.
Hey, so we want to talk about detoxification today because it is a huge issue. I mean, we spend a lot of time talking about all the things that are poisonous out there, but let's talk about the things that we can do to love up our liver and support the detox pathways and create a little bit of a force field here. And I think we'll kind of tee off on this at first with you jumping in. We've been I did a genetic test, and Sarah has been reading me my results publicly. She's I don't even know what she's about to say, but she's been reading the results publicly, and then we talk about it because part of our process is sharing A, our humanity, and B, saying, look, we got all this stuff going on too, and we're going to show you what we would do about it, being in the field. So let's talk about the genetic test with the P450 and what that means, and then we'll jump into what that means for everyone listening because it's super relevant. We live in a dirty world, and our livers need some love.
Oh, it's so true. And I hope I won't overshare as we talk about our results together. But what we learned is that you and I are very similar in some regards. We have very similar genetics in terms of how we use dopamine in the brain. But one of our differences is that a set of enzymes, part of the P450 superfamily of enzymes in the liver, we are very different in how the set of enzymes works. So there's a gene that codes for some of these enzymes called the CYP2D6. You, Pedram, my love, are an ultra metabolizer. You just burn through certain drugs and also certain chemicals really fast. And so that means that you can sometimes build up some toxic metabolites. I, on the other hand, am a slow metabolizer, also known as a poor metabolizer, meaning that if I take certain drugs, they tend to cause a lot of side effects because I get toxic levels of them and I don't break them down. So it's an interesting thing to talk about. It's just this, particular set of enzymes in the liver. You have a super ultra metabolizing set of enzymes. I'm a poor metabolizer.
Let's talk about that in realpolitik, and I hope you don't mind me oversharing, is, I, at one point in my life, was hanging out with all my professional poker player buddies and all this, and I could easily put down 15 vodkas in a night and be standing and dancing. Maybe a little slurring, and this isn't my claim to fame, but I've never really, I've been pretty bulletproof when it came to that stuff. And yeah, you feel like crap the next day, but not that bad. Whereas, I was with you not too long ago. You had one glass of wine, and it was just like, hey, what happened to my smart friend? It was like a visual transformation. It was like, oh my goodness, Sarah, this really hit you. And so it happens in real life. This is what we're talking about, right?
Oh, it's totally what we're talking about. I'm not sure that these enzymes actually affect alcohol, but your point is well taken. I've been with you many nights where you've had alcohol. I either haven't because I know that I'm a total lightweight and it's genetic, or that particular night you're talking about, I actually had 2 glasses of wine, but I hadn't had any alcohol for, I think, 4 months before that. And so it really hit me hard. And I just felt like a toxic waste dump the next morning. So there's many reasons for that, but I love that you're giving us a super clear example of how some of us genetically are ultra metabolizers. Some of us are poor metabolizers. Much of it is determined genetically, but then you can influence it with supplements that you take and also how you live your life.
Sure. So there's this thing called the cytochrome P450 enzymes, okay? And I'm gonna read off a list, excuse me, of substances that can cause overactivity or induction of this. And here we go. You guys might have heard a few of these. Caffeine, alcohol, dioxin, saturated fats, organophosphorus pesticides, welcome to reality, paint fumes, sulfanoamides, exhaust fumes, and barbiturates. Okay, just a few, right? And so I've got this cytochrome P450 thing going on, and so let's talk about that because these are all genetics is just funky, right? Now we're getting into license plates. That's what it sounds like to me, CYD. What the hell is that?
They totally sound like license plates. They didn't have like a really smart marketer name these genes. So
Totally.
we just need to rename them, Pedram.
Yeah, totally. It's the party gene or the non-party gene. How about that?
Yeah, I don't have that gene at all. So this is such a good point. And this is why I think we live at a time and a place where detox is really no longer a luxury. It's something that we all need to be doing. We want to be mindful of these things. You and I need to detox for different reasons. Another place that this came up, I mean, you and I shared in a previous show that we both have the explorer gene. We chew through dopamine really fast. It means we have a tendency to always go after that shiny new object. And we have ADD, we have attention deficit. And so I meditate. That's one of the ways that, I really get a lot of benefit from meditation. It helps me really focus my mind. You do Qigong, you're an urban monk. But I did have a time when I was diagnosed with ADD where I took a medication for ADD. I started taking Dexedrine. Yeah, so this is like opening the kimono here on our show. So I was prescribed by my psychiatrist some Dexedrine, and I started taking it, and oh my gosh, I mean, I was super focused. I got so much accomplished. I got rid of all the piles that were sitting around in the kitchen. My husband was delighted. But then I didn't sleep for a couple of days because I'm a poor metabolizer. So I had these really high levels of basically speed, because if you have ADD and you take speed, it helps to kind of calm you down and focus. But for me, I'm a poor metabolizer and I just couldn't sleep. So I'm more likely to have side effects, and I can't take medication for ADD.
Wow, that's heavy, man. And so let's just talk about this real quickly, because it almost seems counterintuitive to some when you say, hey, I have ADD, which means I kind of bounce around, but then I take speed and it helps. So specifically, we're talking about kind of speed hitting a particular part of the brain and then helping that part of the brain control impulses, right?
That's right. You got it. I mean, it's a paradoxical response, but this is what children with ADHD are given. They're given Ritalin or, some of the newer, more expensive forms. And Ritalin is actually something I can take. It's one of the few ADD medications that are not metabolized by the CYP2D6. It's one of the only ones I know. But I just find that I don't like my personality as much when I take it. And so I'd rather use these mindfulness approaches as a way of managing my desire to go after the shiny new object.
Yeah, I was in this conference years back at UCLA. It was in the neuropsych department. And the guy is showing all these slides about what they were doing for ADD with some of these new medications. And, they were really proud of the fact that they were able to cut off blood flow to the prefrontal cortex in this thing. And it's just like, hey, wait a minute. So you're telling me you have developed the chemical equivalent of a frontal lobotomy in a pill, right? Like you're choking out parts of the brain, and that's giving you some intended results. And just because the patient now walks around like a zombie, your work here is done. And it's become such a weird topic because a lot of people who are completely dysfunctional in society would rather stay dysfunctional in a lot of ways because of the way it makes them feel. So, I'd love to maybe do a whole show on alternatives and things that people can do nutritionally and meditation and neurofeedback and all these types of things for that. And if that's of interest to you, hit us up on facebook.com/thehealthbridge and let us know, because we like to be informed on what you guys want to hear before we do a whole show on it. But I think that'd be a fun show idea at some point.
It would be a fun show. And yes, we are listener driven. So we love to get your comments on Facebook. Please hang out there and let us know what you think of our shows. And I want to put just a quick shout out here for Daniel Amen. He's got an amazing book on ADD, Healing ADD, and it's about the 7 different subtypes of ADD. It's not that we're saying just because we have the explorer gene that we're both diagnosable as ADD. We're talking about some of the benefits of having the gene that we had. Listen to our old show if you want to hear more about that. But I also think it's important not to say that everyone needs Ritalin if they have ADD. That's not the message that we have for you. One of the things I learned from Daniel Amen is that there's 7 different subtypes. Most of them do better with more protein in their diet. And by the way, that helps you if you have adrenal fatigue. But as with anything, you don't want too much, you don't want too little, you got to get the dose right. And there's some subtypes of ADD where medication is just a terrible idea. So you want to be careful about what type you have. I don't want to be flippant about that. But back to you and your liver, Pedram. What are you doing to live up your liver right now?
Okay, so let's go through this and I'll tell you specifically. So there's two phases of liver detoxification where it'll take stuff out. We just did a thing on this, but basically, the example you used from Lucille who?
Holly Lucille, Dr. Holly Lucille.
Dr. Holly
She's
Lucille.
in LA.
Oh, awesome. You got to visit her. So basically it's about, taking the trash down to the curb and then having the garbage trucks come and pick it up, right? So there's phase 1 and phase 2. There's a lot of required nutrients for this, right? For phase 1, you need folic acid, vitamin B3, B6, B12, vitamin A, C, calcium, D3, E, milk thistle, and NAC, as you mentioned, and acetylcysteine, and some citrus bioflavonoids and quercetin, right? So these things are helpful and required for that to work. Phase 2, calcium, certain amino acids like L-glutamine, L-lysine, glycine, L-carnitine, taurine, and what's wonderful for this is cruciferous vegetables, the sulfur metabolites, MSM, and also NAC and acetylcysteine, which is something that you had mentioned previously somewhere in the Origins Summit. So these guys haven't heard it, which is basically it works on both sides of that fence. So N-acetylcysteine is huge. So to answer your question, anything and everything I can, right? Because unless you're bolstering your force field, and look, I'm not the guy that's out there partying all the time. I live really clean. But I still get exposed to things because I'm in Southern California and there's just crap everywhere. So I'm constantly on a defensive, preventative, and predictive policy in life to make sure my liver's doing what it's supposed to be doing, because if not, and if you don't take out the trash, the kitchen's going to stink.
Okay, that was beautiful. So I'm going to simplify. I'm going to say, take your B vitamins. In fact, we should do another show on methylation and the MTHFR gene. You also want to be taking NAC, as Pedram just described. It swings both ways. It helps you with phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification. It's got such a safety profile. I mean, just an enviable safety profile. It's super safe. Generally, I tell people to take about 600 milligrams once or twice a day, and acetylcysteine. In fact, I'm going to get some as soon as we finish our show today. Fiber is also a really important one. It's not specifically helpful for phase 1 and phase 2 of the liver, but it helps take all that junk that you take into your body and poop it out. It just helps you, pull out all that crap and get rid of it, especially the bad estrogens, the bad xenoestrogens. Now, Pedram, I was watching you a little earlier drink your fiber. Can you tell us about your fiber?
Yeah, absolutely. I take insoluble fiber. Dr. Alan Christianson, who's our doctor, just has a wonderful new insoluble fiber platform that he's using to help not just with your body's blood sugar and cortisol spikes, but also just pushing the fiber through, because it's absolutely critical to understand that, as the liver starts letting go of this stuff, there's only a couple ways it can go, right? The gallbladder through the bile to the bowel, or the kidneys through the urine. And so the more you can get the bowel moving, the more there's throughput, the better all of these things work. And the problem with our culture is we all eat these kind of cloying, yucky foods that are inflammatory, and the guts are leaky, and things that are supposed to be working and moving things through aren't. So then the liver's like, hey man, I got a bunch of trash. Oh, I can't fit it on this truck, or the truck's not moving. We're in trouble, right? And so fiber is huge. I eat a lot of fiber. I've been doing a lot of vegetables and trying to keep my calories contained on high fiber, high water, high nutrient foods that are not calorically dense in that way. And taking fiber supplement in the morning and doing everything I can to just keep that going.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. And I used to tell people to aim for about 35 to 45 grams of fiber a day. If you look at our Paleolithic ancestors, they actually consume much more. They were more in the 100 grams a day or even higher. And so I've recently been challenging myself to get more fiber each day. I'm up around 50 to 60 most days. And that's something that you want to do gradually. The average American gets about 14 grams a day. So you want to slowly move up by about 5 grams a day. Otherwise, you're going to be bloated and constipated. You want to let your body adjust, because your gut microbiome needs to figure out what to do when you start to increase your fiber, and there's an adjustment phase.
Yeah, really important. If you're drinking Dr. Pepper and having little Debbie's, and all of a sudden you decide to go all fiber, it's going to hurt. So phase in and do that really mindfully, but you'll find that within a month or two, your life is completely changed. And I see it all the time in the clinic. It's a big deal. So we're just about out of time here. Guys,
Pedram, what's Debbie's? I don't know what you're talking about.
Debbie's, it's like some cream-filled oatmeal cookie, like with like a cream center or something. Sounds really good if you're drunk, but I mean, yeah.
Speaking of drinking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, drinking is something I used to really enjoy doing, and now it just kind of hurts. So that if you're drinking and it's hurting more and more, with age, you have less blood flow going through the liver. Lots of things change. And so the more you kind of engage in life and step forward and have challenges coming at you, the more you want resilience for your liver. And so having a preventative program, just kind of constantly protecting the organ that protects you, is a really good policy in life.
Love it. So I just want to thank our listeners for being with us today as we talk about Leaven Up the Liver. It was really fun to talk about the P450 enzymes. And of course, you can always go to facebook.com/The Health Bridge to tell us if you like the show. We want you to subscribe and share it with your friends. Pedram, thank you so much for opening the kimono with me today.
Thank you, and thank you for doing the same. I'm learning things about Sara on the air that I don't even know that she's coming public with, and so this has been a really fun experiment for us, and I'm stoked to be doing this and kind of discovering where we can go with this with our audience. So hit us up on Facebook. Tell us what you guys want us to explore next with you guys, and we're here for that.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Thanks, guys.